Second Fix Carpentry. We're going to take a look at the Second Fix Carpentry section of our pricing sheet. We've only just arrived at the Second Fix Carpentry, but if we scroll down, we'll notice that the majority of the work has been done for us. The NHE Plus has used all the information that we've already entered in previous sections to calculate this for us. We do need to check, and if required, complete the red boxes here at the top. Then it's a simple case of checking the details that have been worked out. Our Second Fix Carpentry on our pricing sheet is broken down into clearly marked sections, making checking and fine-tuning really simple. Red boxes. At the top of the Second Fix Carpentry section, we've got these red boxes. We need to look at what they're for and complete them if they're required. There is the option to allow for any boxing. We just enter the quantity that will be needed. For our job, it's 5. If we click the question mark, we can view how these are being calculated. We'll notice that these boxes are yellow, so we can adjust the number of battens, the height, width, and depth of the box. We can also select plyboard or plasterboard boxings. Just tick the relevant box and check the material in the drop-down menu. The materials for the battens is here. We can change this too if we want. When this is set to our preferences, we enter the details. If airing cupboard shelves need to be included in the quote, enter the number in here. We'll put in 3. Click the question mark. We can see exactly how these are being worked out. We can adjust the dimensions, spacing, and bearers in the yellow boxes. If changes are made, just click Enter Details. We can change the settings for these shelves in our master file. That way, they'll be set to our preferences when we generate a new quotation. However, it may be that the width and length are something that we do want to check on a job-by-job basis. These details are correct for our job, so we'll leave them set like this. Exactly the same process applies if we have a loft hatch. Enter the quantity, we've got 3. Click the question mark, view, and if necessary change how it's being calculated. We're given lots of easy-to-use options. We can see the size of the opening, the quantity is here, and this is the loft hatch the costs will be based on. We can change this if we want by using the drop-down menu. Here is the liner, doorstop, case moulding or architrave finish. The material for each of these is below. It is a drop-down, so it can be adjusted. We'll also notice that if any of these options aren't needed for the loft hatch, we can easily switch them off, and they'll be removed from our quote. The final red box is where we allow for any bath panels. We'll enter 1, click the question mark to check the details. We can change the dimensions of the bath panel. We can also adjust the type of panel. We've got options for ply, plastic, or wooden slat. It's so simple. Let's look at the options. If we select ply, we need to select the ply that we're going to use in this drop-down. Let's click plastic. As plastic panels are included in the cost of the sanitary ware, blue text confirms that the material isn't being allowed, only the labour for the fitting of the panel. If we opt for wooden slats, we need to select the material from the drop-down menu and tell the programme the coverage width of each board. Our bath panel will be wooden slats, so we'll enter this in. The red boxes are complete. The NHE Plus instantly uses this information to calculate everything that we'll need for these items. We will be viewing all the details in the relevant subsections of our Second Fix Carpentry movie. Doors. Here is the doors subsection of the Second Fix Carpentry. We'll start at the top, work our way down, and take a look at what's been allowed. The first item is internal doors. Every internal door, whether it's in masonry walls, single or double, or stud partitions, has been picked up by the programme and allowed for here. Here are the hinges for our doors. If we click on the red question mark, we can see that the programme is basing its calculation on there being 3 hinges per door. We can change this if we want. Just type the number required in the yellow box and enter the details. We can change the type of hinge that's being used too. We've got 17 doors, and they require 3 hinges each, so in total we need 51 hinges. If we click the magnifying glass, we can see that the current material has 2 hinges, or a pair of hinges, in each pack. Therefore, the programme knows to allow for 26 of these. If we choose the hinge that comes in a pack of 3, again instantly the quantity required changes. The same applies if we choose a pack containing 20 hinges. The amount needed changes again. If we select this material, that's for individual hinges, we can see that we'll need 51 of these. We're going to use this one. Door handles are here. We can change the type of door handle using the drop-down menu. Door latches are also automatically worked out, and we can adjust the material like this if we want. We can allow for any fire doors. We don't require any fire doors, so we're going to put some in, take a look at it, and then remove them before we leave the Second Fix section. It's a blue box, so if they are required, we check the type of door in the drop-down. Keep an eye on the quantity of internal doors. We'll enter 3 fire doors. See? As the fire doors will be replacing the internal doors that are already allowed, the NHE automatically adjusts the number of internal doors. This ensures we have the correct overall quantity of doors for the job. We'll also notice that the associated items for these fire doors have been instantly worked out. So the fire door closers, intermittent strip to go around these fire doors, and the fire door stop. This will be screwed, and by default the material selected for this is a bigger timber than a standard door stop. Below this we have the door stop for our standard internal doors. We can adjust the timber in the drop-down if we want, and we can see the quantity and cost information for it here. We've got the option to allow for carpet step. Not all doorways or jobs will require this, so we can remove it if we don't want it. Just uncheck the box to switch it off. Or, if only some doors require it, just type in the number of linear metres that will be needed. We want these, so we'll switch them back on. OK, we'll remove the fire doors now, as we don't need these. See, instantly the calculations adjust. We do want a letterbox. It is a blue box, so our judgment is required. We just check the material, and we'll enter the quantity as 1. We have chosen plastic external doors. The programme knows that the weather rail is built into the door, so it's not allowed for again here. This is the same for the external door furniture, so the handles lock and bolt. If we'd opted for hardwood, softwood or custom-made external doors, then these items would have been allowed and automatically worked out for us. OK, so as we've seen with the doors subsection of our second Fix Carpentry, almost all the work is done for us. We just need to check the details and let the programme know if we've got any fire doors or letterboxes. General items. This is the General Items Second Fix subsection. As we can see, everything's already worked out for us. We just need to check and, if required, fine-tune the details. We'll start at the top and work our way down. First, we've got the architrave to go around the doors. We can see how much we'll need and, if necessary, choose a different material. The skirting's here. Again, it's calculated for us. We can adjust the type of skirting in the drop-down and see the quantity that we'll need. If we click the question mark, the blue text tells us how the skirting has been worked out, and exactly where the programme is allowing for it. At the top of the second Fix Carpentry section, we enter the number of boxings required for the job into the red box. If we click the red question mark, we can again see how the boxings are being calculated, and if we want, fine-tune the details. So we can adjust the dimensions, the quantity of battens and type of cladding, all in this picture. We can view the costs and quantities for the battens and the cladding here. Let's click on the question mark for the curtain battens that will go above our window and door frames. We can adjust the overhang allowance if we want. This length is added onto each end of the batten, so the programme multiplies the length that is put in here by 2. If we click this info icon, we can see how the programme works out the total length of curtain batten. With the exception of garage door frames, the NHE Plus looks at the width of any windows and door frames that have been entered. It uses this information, along with the overhang measurement, to calculate the length of curtain batten required for the job as a whole. The items for our airing cupboard shelves are here. We can see how this is being calculated by clicking on the red question mark. If we want, we can change the details in this picture. We can also select a different material using the drop-down menu. OK, so as we've seen, everything's worked out for us in the General Items Second Fix subsection. We just need to check what's being allowed, and if required, we can easily adjust it by using the interactive pictures or the drop-down menus on the pricing sheet. Loft hatch. This is the loft hatch subsection. We entered the quantity of loft hatches required for the job into the red box at the top of the Second Fix Carpentry section. All of the items for these loft hatches are worked out here for us. Let's take a look. OK, at the top of this subsection we have 2 thumbnails. We can use these to choose the type of loft hatch we will be using. There is a timber or plastic option. By default, this is set as plastic, and this is what we want on our job. But first, we will take a look at what's allowed if the timber type is chosen. We click the timber thumbnail. Instantly, everything switches, and all the items we will need are worked out. Remember, the programme already knows the quantity of loft hatches we want, so these details are based on there being 3. OK, the first item is the loft hatch. We'll click the question mark. We did see this earlier in the red boxes section of this movie. In here, we just check the dimensions for the loft hatch are correct. We can change the material for the hatch in here, or we can do that in the drop-down menu on the pricing sheet. Here are the trimmers. We can see how they're being worked out, and change the dimensions in the picture if we want. We can also adjust the material in the drop-down menu. If we don't want to allow for trimmers, we just uncheck this box and they'll be switched off. Let's switch them back on. Joist hangers are allowed. Again, we can view how they're being calculated, adjust it if we want, select a different type of hanger, or just switch them off if they aren't needed. The liner doorstop and architrave can be viewed by clicking this question mark. We can change the material for each of these in this picture. We can switch them off if they aren't needed. Finally, on the timber loft hatch option, we've got insulation. We can see how it's calculating, change the material, or switch it off if it's not required. The timber loft hatch option gives us so much flexibility. Every item is automatically worked out for us, but we can switch off anything that isn't needed and really drill into the detail and change it if required. We're going to be using plastic pre-made loft hatches. To change it back, we simply click the picture. Instantly it's done. We just check the loft hatch meets our needs. The joists and trimmers for the opening are still being worked out, but as we've selected a pre-made loft hatch, we'll notice that far fewer items are required. Anything that isn't needed is automatically not allowed. Bath panel. Here is the bath panel subsection. We enter the quantity of bath panels we'd need into the red box at the top of the second Fix Carpentry section. All of the items for that bath panel are worked out here for us. Let's take a look. OK, at the top of this subsection, we've got 3 thumbnails. We can use these to choose the type of bath panel we want. We've got options for ply, plastic, or wooden slats. When we entered the quantity of bath panels required earlier, in the red box, we did specify that we would be using a wooden slat bath panel. But we can quickly change this here if we want. Keep an eye on the bath panel item. We'll click ply, now plastic. Let's put it back to wooden slats. Did you see? The bath panel instantly changes to match our selection. The buttons for the bath panel are here. We'll have noticed if we change the bath panel type, they do remain the same. If we want to see how they're being worked out, click the question mark. We can adjust these settings if we want. If for any reason we don't want the batten, just switch it off, and we can change the material here in the drop-down menu. We can fine-tune the material for the bath panel by using this drop-down. Again, if it's not needed, we switch it off like this, and the costs are removed. We'll just switch that back on. Stairs. We're going to look at the stairs subsection of our second Fix Carpentry. Before we look at what is allowed here, we'll notice that the blue text tells us the actual stairs and fittings are allowed for in the first Fix Carpentry. If we haven't allowed for any stairs in the first fix, then none of the information in the second Fix stairs subsection will be worked out. If we click the thumbnail, we're provided with further explanations about how the NHE Plus deals with stairs. We can also use this button to jump back to the first Fix Carpentry section of the pricing sheet, where stairs can be allowed. OK, let's look at the stair items that are accounted for in the second fix. First, we have the balustrade. If we click the question mark, we can view how the programme is working it out. Here is the total length of balustrade that's being allowed. The number in here needs to include all balustrade lengths that will be needed on the stairs and landing. This is the default length, and it's correct for our job, but we can change it if we want, and this may be something that we want to check each time we price. The centres are set at 100mm. This can be altered too. The material can be adjusted in the drop-down, and we can see the cost and quantity information here. Handrail is next. We can see how it's calculating. By default, it's set as the same length as the default balustrade length. To change it, just type the length needed in the yellow box. We can use this drop-down to choose a different material. The capping for the stairs and landing are allowed for independently. We can adjust the lengths for these in the picture. The materials for these items can be changed here in the drop-downs. Infills for the balustrade are automatically calculated, and so are the cover moulds for the stairs. If we click the counter battens for the stair apron, we can see that by default 3 battens are allowed. It's a yellow box, so we can change this if we want. The stair apron's here. Again, we can view how it's worked out and adjust it if we wish. The materials for these items can all be altered by using the drop-down menu. OK, if we enter stairs in the first Fix section of our pricing sheet, by default, all of the second Fix stair items will be automatically calculated. we can switch any of these items off. Simply uncheck the box and the costs and quantities will be removed from our quote. Finish flooring. This is the finish flooring subsection of our second Fix Carpentry. We've got lots of easy to use options that make accurately pricing our finished flooring really simple. In this yellow box, we can see the area that the flooring finish is going to cover. Let's see where the programme is getting this figure from. We can choose the areas of floor that are to be covered. We'll click this thumbnail picture. OK, in this picture we can see the different types of floor structure. Our job doesn't involve all of these. We've just got an oversight and upper floor joists. We'll notice that below each diagram, this box contains the number of square metres, if any, of that flooring structure. So here is the area in metres square of our oversight, and here is the area of the upper floor joists. We'll notice that all the options are ticked, so at the moment the NHE is allowing for a finished floor on both our oversight and upper floor joists. The other floor structures don't have any area, so even though they're ticked, the NHE Plus can't allow for them. We are not going to do a floor finish on our upper floor joists, so we will click on the picture. The tick becomes a cross and the area of our upper floor joists will be deducted from the finished flooring. OK, we'll enter the details. If we want, we can just type the area directly into this yellow box, if the area of the finished flooring required doesn't tie in with the area of the floor structures that we entered earlier. We now need to tell the programme the type of floor finish we're going to use. Again, it's really simple. Click the thumbnail. We've got options for tongue and groove, chipboard and laminate. We just click the option we want. We're doing laminate. We click it. We're provided with a drop-down menu where we can select the material. Now we exit the picture. The blue text here reminds us of our choice. OK, everything is now set and worked out for laminate flooring on our oversight floor structure. Let's see what's being calculated. The flooring finish is here. We can use the drop-down to readjust the material if we want. We can see the costs and quantities for this. Insulation can be allowed for here. We don't require this as we've already allowed for a floating floor in our first fix, so it's a simple case of unticking the box. The costs and quantities are removed. We do want the underlay. We can change the type of underlay here. We may want to use the magnifying glass, as some of the descriptions are quite long. If underlay isn't needed, just untick the box. If wood glue or grip fill are needed, our judgment will be required. We just check the type of material, then enter the quantity that we'll need in the blue box. We can allow for the cleaning up of the floor. By default, this is set as 5% of the time for carrying out this section of work. We'll change this to 2%. By default, the tradesperson allocated to this task is a labourer, but this can be adjusted here in the drop-down menu. If we didn't want to include any cleaning up here, we can just put a 0 in this yellow box and no costs or hours will be calculated. So to recap, we just check the area of floor, tell the programme the type of finished floor we want, view the details, fine-tuning them if necessary. Fixings. Every single fixing that we may need for our second Fix Carpentry is accounted for here in the Fixings subsection. This section is closed to help keep the pricing sheet streamlined. The blue text tells us the total for all the fixings needed for the second fix. To open the section, we tick this box here. See? Instantly it opens. It's likely that on most quotes we won't open this section to view exactly how these fixings have been worked out. But this is something that may be worth looking at in the master file. We can view and if necessary adjust the default settings. If we make changes and save them in our master file, then when we next generate a quote, the pricing sheet will be set to our preferences. Let's take a look at what's been allowed. We can see the number of fixings allowed for each hinge on our internal doors. The fixing material can be adjusted. The magnifying glass tool can be useful, as some of the descriptions in the fixing section can be quite long. We haven't allowed for any fire doors, so nothing's being calculated for the fire door stop fixings. But we can see how these are worked out if they're needed. We can really drill right into the detail. If we want to, we can adjust, enter our preferences into the yellow boxes. Our internal doorstop fixings are here. We can see the quantity allowed. The type of fixing can be adjusted in this drop-down menu. And we can see exactly how the NHE is working these out and change the settings if we wish. Next, we've got the carpet step, architrave and skirting board fixings. All of the details for these can be viewed and adjusted, and the type of fixing can be changed in the drop-down menu if required. The batten and cladding fixings for our boxing are dealt with here. The criteria for how they are calculated can be altered, along with the fixing that's going to be used. Curtain batten and airing cupboard shelf fixings haven't been forgotten. Tweaking the settings is so easy. Fixings for trimmers are here. As we have joist hangers, these haven't been worked out. If we hadn't selected joist hangers, these would have been automatically calculated. The trimmer joist hanger fixings are here. We can see the number of fixings allowed per joist hanger. This can be changed if we want. We're using a plastic loft hatch, so we don't have any loft hatch liner, loft hatch doorstop or architrave, so the fixings for these items haven't been calculated as they're not required, but we can still look at how they would be calculated if we want. The fixings for the bath framing are here. We haven't opted for a ply panel, so no fixings are worked out, but the fixings for our wood slat panel are here. The fixings that will be required for our stair items, so the balustrade, capping to stairs and landing, cover mould, counter batten for our apron, and the apron are allowed for. Viewing exactly how they've been worked out is as easy as looking at a picture. Here are the finished floor fixings. And finally, we have the raw plugs. If we click the question mark, the text explains how these are calculated. Okay, so as we can see, every single item, literally right down to the last nail and screw, is worked out for us. As mentioned at the start, it's unlikely we'll be looking at this level of detail when we're pricing a job, but we may want to view and adjust the default settings for our fixings in our programme's master file. Extra row and totals. The intuitive nature of the NHE Plus means that when we get to the second Fix Carpentry section, most of the work has been done for us, based on what we've already put into our quote. It's logically laid out and broken down into easy-to-manage subsections. All of the common and not so common items are accounted for. But if there is an additional item or task that we want to include in the second fix, we can add it in. We just click the Extra Row button. It's located here, and follow the built-in instructions. Or we can click this info icon, and we're provided with information about adding an extra row. The totals for our second Fix Carpentry are here, so our materials, hours, labour, and overall total. If we want, we can make this into a PC sum by ticking this box. We're provided with a form that explains how the programme deals with PC sums. Our second Fix Carpentry isn't a PC sum, so we will untick this option. We can click this button and view a snapshot summary of the second fix section of our pricing sheet if we want. To go back to the pricing sheet, just click this button, and we'll return to the top of the second Fix Carpentry section.